which is really cool.
Hey, Tim. I got your
All right, good.
Is that your new website? That's nice. That graceteachings.net?
Yes, we just got that set up actually last week.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I actually paid the I was going to say I actually paid the pastor at the Nazarene church.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for including me in this. I've always wanted to do this Greek thing, so this is like, wow, perfect. I was just studying right now. Still studying. I'm doing a study in Matthew, right? But I've been studying each chapter of Matthew, and I'm at Matthew 24. So that's been taking me, I don't know, I think I've been on it for about a year and a half right now, but it's really good. Just to get all the distinctions and stuff like that. But I've always wanted to do a Greek class. Are you just starting this?
This is class number 2.
Oh, number 2. Okay, well, I didn't miss too much. Hi, Peg.
Hi, how are you?
So do you do this every Thursday morning?
Tuesdays and Thursdays we're going to do this.
Oh.
So I've taught this 4 or 5 times over the years.
Okay.
So
I might miss every other Tuesday, but
well, it'll be available on YouTube, so you can go back
so
and pick up the class if you don't make it. Because we have the same problem here. We have some people at church that were like, "Oh, man, they're they're working at this time." So
right.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and we'll start. And I am, as we kind of did the other day, I'm going to be moving between seeing me and sharing the screen. And I'm going to share right now from my Bible software that I use.
Okay.
And I'm trying to give an illustration at the beginning of the class on the value of learning Greek. And I went over this passage in our Bible study briefly last night for another purpose, but in 1 Corinthians 2:9, Paul says, "But even as it stands written, things which," and that's, I put that, I didn't put any marks on this letter. It technically should have 2 marks on it, but one that's important. But things, or which things, we could put which things, and that's a neuter relative pronoun. You don't need to learn all that yet, but that's what you will eventually learn what that is. Which things the eye has not seen, and ear has not heard, or has risen up in the heart of man. Things which, again, repeated a second time, things which God has prepared for those that are loving him. And then he says, well, then how does that get to us? He says, God's revealed them to us, verse 10, through his Spirit. And that brings us to verse 13. And verse 13 says, which things then we speak not in, and we have this form is the word you see, didaktois, okay? Didaktois. And I've highlighted or underlined this ending here. I've highlighted it for you online. Didaktois, and this would be taught human wisdom. And then we have logos, words. And so we have things and words. And this is the form of the word words. The vocabulary form you learn for the word word is logos. But this is logos because that's the case that it's used in this verse. You'll eventually, this will be something we'll learn in the next few weeks here very soon, is that a Greek noun can occur in one of 8 cases. There are four forms that you're really going to learn. So it's not actually that hard. That sounds scary, but there's actually four forms you will learn, but 8 cases. Okay. So we have words, and so this ending matches this. And so when I translate this, I always say not in words taught of human wisdom, but in spirit taught words, comparing, and then we have the verb or the participle at the end, comparing, and we have these 2 words. They look the same except the endings. And it's spirit taught words, I believe he's going back to, was spirit taught, and he changes this to a neuter ending, neuter plural ending, and he's referring back to which things. So he's comparing spiritual words that are available to the spiritual things. In other words, and the importance of that is when Paul spoke, or when the other apostles spoke by the power of the Spirit, not just speaking on their own, they spoke in such a way that the Holy Spirit was actually carefully choosing the words in their vocabulary that actually accurately communicated the things that God wanted to reveal to us. So that's a very important concept. And it's something that I think a person can piece together from English, but it's, and I notice I have the New American Standard on the left side, and they have combining spiritual thoughts with spiritual words. And I don't know that it's necessary to put thoughts there. I would take it back up to the word things up above. Yes.
Where's didacta? What in verse?
Didacta, that is, I messed up. I messed up when I copied it out because we have didacta. It's not that. I'm so sorry. I just totally botched that when I was doing this. It's, I put the wrong word. I was looking at one of them. It's get rid of new. Oh man, I don't have enough word. Pneumatic here. Oh, I can do it if I do this. Don't get after me, Peggy. Okay. My wife's always telling me, don't use your finger on the board. And then pneumatica. There we go. Spirit taught things or spiritual things. I totally messed up when I got so focused on the first adjective there where he uses the word didaktois. And after that, then I wasn't paying attention to the Greek text because I didn't have a Greek text in front of me. So when I was putting that down, I apologize. Mess up your Greek lesson by not paying attention.
There and right there.
Yeah.
Where is that here?
Interpreting spiritual truths. The truths go with pneumatic kois.
I couldn't tell you because I don't exactly know what way they're using that. Okay. So, but the point of this is to say that if you learn some Greek, and this isn't even real technical Greek, in my opinion, this is a matter of reading the text and a matter of knowing some basics of how Greek works, that you understand that there's a difference between a masculine, which is what the word is, and things, which relates to this form of the word pneumaticon. That's, please ignore that. That handwriting is just atrocious there because I messed that all up. Okay, so with that, I'm going to move over to this screen. I want to share this screen now. If I can new share. There we go. Still trying to figure out how to do this. I'll be a little bit smooth in moving this. So hopefully, pardon me?
Little.
Okay.
Small. It's just very small.
It is small. So hopefully you all did your assignment. Hopefully you all downloaded the worksheets. There are additional worksheets on the end of that that I have uploaded to the website so that you.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So hopefully you worked on your alphabet over the last couple of days. If you don't learn the alphabet, the rest of this is just going to be an absolute uphill struggle because you have to be able to understand the letters. It will. But I'm completely serious, is what I said the other day. If you sit down and you work and you just take a sheet of paper and you just copy these back and forth across, covering up the letters as you go across, you find out that you'll get it down in about 2 days, maybe 3. It's not that hard. And then from then on, just kind of practice a little bit every day. So with that, we have at the bottom of that practice sheet, and I'm going to erase this butchered example here. And I'm going to put okay. So I'm going to move this a little bit forward so that you can see the board just a little bit better. I put some words at the bottom of that first sheet, and we're going to work on practicing these words in pronunciation here just to see how we're doing. So, how do you say that, Peggy?
Logos.
Logos. So pronounce like Logos.
Lambda, Omicron, Gamma, Omicron, Sigma.
Sigma. And remember, if you put sigma in a word, you write it like this. But at the end of a word, instead of going up, the tail falls down and falls below the line.
Are you seeing
You should be, yes, I think they should be able to see that. So I'm going to make sure that's, maybe I have to get the other camera out next time. Okay. Next word, let's pick a simple word here out of it, and then we'll go backwards. You want to try that one?
No.
No, she doesn't.
What does it look like? What does it look like, you'd say?
Oh, they're kidneys. Not us, but
This is chi, so it's kappa.
Kai Jinx, right?
Okay.
Yeah, chi. So this is one of those that's easy because all the Greek letters all look very, very much like an English letter. And so it makes that a lot easier. Come to the next one that we have here.
Adelphos.
Adelphos. So A,
Yeah, yeah,
D,
there you go.
E, L,
Can't read it in Greek.
P, H, O, S. That's why we're taking the class, right? That's why we're doing this. Okay. So Adelphos. Erase these. My wife went and picked up new markers. Our markers down here are in really bad shape.
Artos.
Artos.
That's an R, honey.
Oh, man, I shouldn't be teaching Greek. I mess stuff up all the time. Artos, thank you. Artos, and artos is a word for bread. It's a word for bread.
Anthropos.
And this is the TH sound. Anthropos, which is man. So if you go to college or
Mankind.
high school and you take anthropology, yeah, mankind usually. If you want, I don't have it up here on this list, but we'll just add it here just for.
Aner. That's man. Or male person.
Yeah. On air. Nair.
Nair.
Yeah. But that's male.
What?
That's male.
He wrote the P again instead.
Oh, I
yes,
did.
you did. Yes. Bro.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Okay.
Which makes it an A.
On air. Let's see what else. What other one did we have here?
Lego.
Can you see that up there? I don't know if I wrote it up. I wrote it up maybe just a little too high. Lego.
A toy that our granddaughter likes to play with.
Yeah.
Mago.
Lego. And Lego means I speak. It's by the way, and I don't know if you can see this, but it is related to the word logos. Okay, they're cognates. Okay, cognates means that they are related.
Them two. Oh no, tempo.
Tempo.
Sorry.
Yep.
Tempo.
There's two P's in there.
Yep.
I can see that.
Pempo. And pempo means I send. Grapho.
Good job, got the arm.
I did.
I write. And we get the noun, change the ending, graphe, and it means a writing. That's the word for scripture, by the way. Scripture simply means that which is written. one of our really funky letters in here.
Doxa.
Doxa.
Praise. Praise?
Nope.
No.
Glory.
Glory.
Or
Okay,
opinion.
that's right,
Glory,
that's right,
opinion
that's
or
right.
reputation. Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, look at that. Hey, I do have, so if I just look down the lesson here, I actually
Oh,
included
there
the
it is.
word graphe. Yeah, there it is. And I apologize. I've written A's that way for such a long time, and I try not to do it, especially when I'm with kids. I'm not with kids this morning though, so. Okay. And then this is one. I tried to pick a few to put in here that if you could figure out how to pronounce them, you actually probably could figure out the Greek or what the word is.
Parabole.
What?
Parabole.
Parabole. Yeah, what do you think that means?
Are you looking at me?
Yes,
Oh.
because you pronounce it. What do you think? Parabole. 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 Parable.
Okay. Parable.
We just,
okay.
we just put
okay.
our,
Okay, parable.
we just kind of emphasize different syllables a little bit
Okay.
in that way. So,
Drop
okay.
the O. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bole.
parable. So those were assignments. So now I'm going to move down to the writing of the letters. And I have those written up on the board for those that are here since they can't see my computer screen. But for those of you that are following along, you can see how we write these letters, where they're written, if you're going to write on a line like this. And so the first set of letters there we have are all letters that are written on top of the bottom line, but below the middle of the line. So we have, and I'm just going to walk through these just again to help us review. Alpha, which makes an ah sound, like in father. Okay, so it's like the A sound, but ah. Epsilon, which is as in bet or met. Okay.
Iota or iota.
Iota, yeah, which is a short, normally a short I sound there.
Sometimes long. E.
Yeah.
Kappa.
Kappa, there we go, which makes a K sound. That's right. New. Now this is, we're going to talk about this. Do not confuse this with upsilon. This is a consonant. This is a vowel. It's not a V. It's not a V. Don't confuse. Wow, I'm having trouble this morning. Do not confuse it with gamma. Gamma, if you can see, falls below the line. So we have, if you're looking on here, gamma falls. See if I can highlight. Whoops. Oh, don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. Gamma falls below the line, and the noon, that third letter that looks like a V, is actually the N sound. That's their N sound. Those are, like I said, a lot of these letters resemble some English letters, but we have a few of them like this that are a little bit different. Then we have Omicron.
Wait a minute,
which is
Tim.
yes.
Go back to that other one. How do you spell it?
This letter right here.
Yes.
You would pronounce it as an N.
So how is it spelled?
Oh, how would you say the letter?
I mean,
How
I've spelled alpha, epsilon, iota, kappa.
Oh.
How do you spell that one?
It's new.
Oh, just like that. Okay.
New.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. Okay.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's why we're doing class. So you can stop and ask questions. I didn't get any questions the other day. I only got corrections from my wife when I messed stuff up. So she's helpful because my brain sometimes goes in odd directions. Then Omicron, which it's a short O sound. Okay.
Yeah.
And then pi, which makes the
Yeah.
P sound. Okay.
As in pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sigma, and sigma has two forms. In the middle of And I'm going to write sigma here so you can see this. In the middle, any place except the end of a word, it looks like an O with a tail across the top. Okay.
Oh,
I'm sloppy. So when I write it up here, if you read the Greek that I write when I write notes for myself all the time, my letters are kind of sloppy. But I can guarantee you, looking at old Greek manuscripts that people have written, their letters sometimes were like, oh, I know what that is.
Is that an omicron or a sigma?
Yeah. And at the end of the word, then the tail falls down and the tail falls below the line. We'll get to that.
okay.
But that's an S. That's an S sound. Okay. Then we have tau, which, I should have let you say it.
Okay.
T sound.
Upsilon.
Which is U. Okay. And it's
Sometimes a yip.
yeah, sometimes a Y sound in certain places. But
Yep.
but this is their U along. What?
That would be at the beginning of a word, yeah. Right. No, well,
Huios, but
that's a
we're going
W.
to talk about that in a
Yeah.
little bit because there's two letters involved in that.
Yeah.
And then we have
Omega.
omega.
The alpha and the omega.
Yeah. It's the last letter of the alphabet, and that makes a long O sound. Long O sound.
Okay.
Now we're going to move to that second line of letters. And these are letters. Oh, any questions on those? Thank you.
Tim, just to clarify on the sigma, so anytime it has a line on top, it's anywhere in the middle of the letter, middle of the word. But
Yeah,
sigma.
the only time the sigma is written like our S, which on the second line there under writing the letters that we have. This should be on, if you're following along on the notes, this
I
is
see it.
on the notes. And in that second line, then sigma, the only time the tail falls below the line is at the end of a word.
Okay.
Only when it's at the end of the word.
Your notes that are online.
Yes, those are the notes that are online on the website that you can download. And you also can see these, if you have the textbook, page 2, they have all those. You can follow, you can be, okay. Oh, you've got the textbook on your phone. Look at that. Okay. Okay.
It's not on page 2 in my phone.
Oh.
That's okay.
Okay. And I did find that out. If you don't have this textbook, in fact, I just listened to a man from March. I listen to him regularly talk about Greek stuff, and he actually reviewed this textbook because this is the one I took Greek with for seminary. But this is the new version. This is the one I used when I started teaching Greek back in the 90s. And I learned out of the old Red Book, and this was revised in the 90s and released. And so there's a few changes. For the most part, it's very much the same. One of the criticisms and positive things that man said is this is brief compared to a lot of grammars, which is the number one reason I'm using it for you, because I've looked at a lot of other grammars and the chapters are just loaded with a lot of information that I personally think when you're trying to learn beginning Greek, I don't think you need all that right away. At some point you will need that, but let's learn the language and learn how the verbs and the nouns and these different things work, and then add those other details down the road. And that's the way I learned Greek. I didn't learn all the fancy details till I got off to seminary. So anyway, but you can get this $15, I think, on Amazon and Kindle. Did you get yours? Oh,
I
you
got
bought.
mine on Kindle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that book called? What's the title?
Essentials of New Testament Greek by Ray Summers, revised by Thomas Sawyer. And it's listed at the top of the notes as the textbook. And there is also a workbook with it if you want to use the workbook. I think the workbook is helpful, but I'm trying to provide some exercises in addition to the ones in the book at the end of each one of the downloaded lessons we have here. So anyway, so that second line then, we have letters that are written below the middle line, but they fall below the bottom line or the baseline. And one of those is gamma, which is a G sound, a G sound. Okay, a G sound. Eta, which makes the...
To me, it's a long A sound.
Long A, and they say as in obey.
as O-B-E-A-E-Y, obey. It's the way they say it. And it's that this end tail here of the letter, you can see falls below the line. And
But when you write it in English, it's E, the letter E.
yeah,
You
yeah,
say
yeah.
And in every other language, you say A.
A.
Then we have the letter,
Mu.
yeah.
Can we say it?
I would say moo, but yeah.
Looks like the letter M.
It does a little bit. I always think it kind of reminds me of a letter U.
M. Mr.
I have used,
Calls it Mr. Price. Called it mu.
you know, okay. I have used this letter since I was in college, that if I add a note in a textbook, or if I'm taking notes in a class and I have a comment I want to add, and I want to remember that it's my comment and not what the teacher said, I use this because it's part of the word for me in Greek. And so I write this symbol, and that means whatever I write after that, that's my thought or my comment on what the teacher was teaching. And I've used that in college, and I use this to this day if I'm listening to somebody teach the Bible. That's where because otherwise I go, if you don't do that, how do I know what I was thinking versus what they were teaching? Because they might have taught something and I might have had a different perspective, and I just want to keep that straight anyway. So I've used that for years. Anyway, that's totally an aside. That's a rabbit trail. I apologize if that just for the digression. The next letter is the letter
Rho.
Rho. It looks like a P. It looks like a P, but it's an R sound. That's their R sound. Okay. And you can kind of see, if you look at a capital letter P, you can see that it is pretty close to a capital letter R. You just have this other tail that comes down this way. So you can see over time how letters like that could.
Capital letter Rho, you mean not capital
Capital letter Rho. I said
Yeah.
capital letter P.
P.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. But the tail falls down. In the sigma, which is the S sound, the tail falls down. This last letter,
Chi.
chi, which is the initial letter in the title Christos, Christ, both legs of that letter fall below the line. Then we move to this row, the third row of letters there, and we have the first letter is delta. Delta, yeah. And first in the word when we had the Greek example up here, didaktois. It's one of the words you're going to learn pretty early on is the word didaskalos, teacher. They teach that pretty early in our lessons. But it uses this letter delta, and it goes above the line. So it's very similar to what our letter D would do, because it's a D sound, and our letter D would have the leg that goes above the halfway line.
But does not touch the top.
But it doesn't touch the top. Second letter, theta, and makes a TH sound. It's the first letter in the word theos, which is God, the term God. Okay. And so that letter also extends above. Lambda, which that's their L, that makes their L sound. And also you can see it extends above. The bottom line then, we have 5 letters that are both written partly below the line and partly above the center line. And first letter would be beta, which is B, okay. Next letter, zeta, okay. Again, above and below the line.
That's a weird.
So
Z or z, z.
on here it says Z or DZ.
Yeah.
And is there a way to know?
You're gonna find out. It's gonna.
So it's preference.
It's not. It's going to have to do with the other letters it's written with. It's sometimes sometimes the addition of the D sound kind of is just almost natural when you're saying it. It's almost awkward to just say it with just the straight Z sound.
Okay.
So it's not a thing I would stress about. You'll find out you'll either end up pronouncing that because of the other letters that you're saying it with, or you'll just end up saying it as is.
Okay.
So And then the next letter.
Xi, Xi.
I,
Die.
Xi, yeah, Xi. And that
Xi.
makes,
And the X.
yeah, and it makes an
X.
X sound. That's right.
Some people say Xi, some people say Xi.
Yeah. And I apologize. Those of you that are watching online, you can see them because they're printed very nicely on the computer. Up here, I'm writing down while I'm standing. I said I should have squatted down here because I didn't write these very neatly. And, but that's partly above the line and then below, just like the rest. Okay. Next one.
5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, is it 5 feet? Which one is that? Feet, 5 full come?
I always say five, to be
Five,
honest.
okay.
I always say five.
Well, say pi,
Yeah.
pi.
Bye.
Yeah, that's
Right, right.
Yeah, that's right.
And the iota, that it's written with, when you pronounce it, can be either long or short. So, okay, but the leg of that goes above and below. And then the last one,
Psi.
psi.
Poseidon's.
We were looking at this letter. This letter occurred a whole lot in our Bible study last night because we were looking at the word suke, and this is the first letter for the word soul in Greek, suke. And you almost don't say the P. The P almost kind of disappears when you say it.
Tim.
Now yes.
could I don't want to get off subject, but it's really interesting. Last night I was watching on Nova the history of the alphabet and how it started. And I didn't get all of it, but it was talking about like in the early times with the mining thing, a place where they're mining and they were trying to figure out a way to pass words along. They were drawing things where hieroglyphics became an alphabet. And the A, for example, the way the alpha is on this, it's interesting how it became the way it is in Greek and also Roman and then English. And what that started out was, if you think about it, the hieroglyphic for that A, because it was a Canaanite word that started with an A, and it was pronounced something like that. But it was the name of a deer with a horn. And so what that is the horns turned sideways with the head.
It is.
And that's the history of the alpha and the A. And it's really interesting. Yeah. So that was a hieroglyphic deer with the horn turned sideways.
Yeah, most of our letters actually have a history behind them.
Yeah.
I have a book on the history of the Hebrew alphabet, and not everybody agrees but they agree on a number of points I know on the Hebrew also. So yeah, they started out definitely as pictures. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so now we're going to go down and we're going to talk about our vowels for just a little while. And I'm going to skip the capital letters because the capital letters are written from the bottom line to the top line. So
Look pretty different. And you are going to come across them.
you will come across them once in a while. If you read in a Greek text, interlinear or anything like that you follow along in, capital letters are almost only used for names or official titles, and occasionally for the first letter of a paragraph. But they don't use, normally they don't. If you get the textbook, this one, I think my mom has, you have the old red textbook. Did I ever give you a copy of the old red textbook?
Yes.
Yeah.
This one.
See, you won't have this picture in here, but you know what? You can go on your computer and you can look up. This is Chester Beatty papyri for 1 Corinthians. Chester Beatty was the guy that discovered this. And you can look this up on your computer. You can see it in full color. In fact, there's a professor from Dallas Seminary that started the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts. And you go on there and you can look, they've digitized, they've gone around the world with their digital cameras, and they've taken thousands of pictures of Greek manuscripts, ancient manuscripts. And the reason I'm showing you this is if you look at this, the crazy thing about the way they wrote is they didn't even write word divisions. They just ended one word. They were like first graders. They wrote one word and went right on to the next word without a space between the two of them. and they didn't capitalize. And you'd think it would be impossible, but if you wrote out a paragraph in English, word on word, you would find by the time you get to the end of that paragraph that you'd be picking up word divisions because you're familiar enough with English words. And the Greeks did the same thing. Second point, when the Greeks, at the time of the New Testament, when they were writing it, everything was written in capital letters. Everything was written in capital letters. They called them uncials. Everything. But by the time you get into about the 4th and 5th centuries, they're starting to introduce writing in minuscules, or what we would call lowercase letters, and using some uppercase in places. And so almost all of your modern texts, I know of no modern text, there may be some that people have produced, but they all use the lowercase letters in the text, kind of the way we do in English that way. So, should you learn the uppercase letters? Yes. And back your extra in the introduction on page 4, we goes through all the letters, how they're pronounced. In the textbook, that pronunciation guide, which we went over on Tuesday, is on page 1 and laps over onto page 2 in the book. If you have the book, if you have the Kindle version, pages don't matter. And then following that on page 5 is the exercise sheet. And like I said, I would use that exercise sheet. I didn't have an exercise sheet when I learned Greek. I did everything on lined notebook paper. And I just practiced this. I probably filled 3 or 4 sheets of lined notebook paper over the course of a week and just practiced the letters every day before I went to work, and had the alphabet down in 3 or 4 days. So, and I almost guarantee you that if you would just take the time and do that, you'd have these letters down, like I said, in 3 or 4 days. And you only have to devote 5 or 10 minutes. It's not like you're devoting a whole half hour of your life to that. But it would be a half hour well spent if you did. Okay, let me erase this and let's talk about our vowels. What time is it here? Okay, I just want to make sure. I was trying to keep this closer to a half hour lesson. Just because I didn't want anybody to get too overwhelmed. Is basically, I don't want anybody to drop out because they're going, oh, this lessons go on forever. This guy doesn't stop talking. We have our letters aleph, alpha. I'm doing Hebrew again. Alpha, epsilon, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega. So
Eta.
what?
Eta.
Oh, I dropped eta out of there, didn't I? Oh my goodness.
Epsilon. Right after epsilon.
Yes, I know where it goes. I'm just trying to
That's
decide.
erase.
Just trying to decide. Okay. Now, out of these, and this will be important for the way you break some words down the road, always long. Out of these, the letters that are always long are going to be eta and omega. Those letters are always long. And then always short, letters for us that are always short are going to be epsilon and omicron. And then the letters that switch, that can be either or, obviously in there, that can be either, depending on where they're used, are going to be
Alpha.
iota, or yeah, alpha. Thank you. Let's get it. Alpha, iota, and epsilon. And those are going to vary. Now, see if I can turn this over here. So we already talked about this. So let's move this out of here.
I'm pronouncing things over here. Keep teaching.
So now we have, now we're going to talk about diphthongs. Diphthongs. And diphthongs are where we take 2 vowels and we put them together. We have them in English. We're all used to that. And you're going to, when we look at these, you're going to go, oh, well, we use these almost exact same ones in English. So they're pretty obvious. So we're going to have alpha, iota that you can see there, and they make the I sound like we would have in the word
Chi.
aisle,
And
like
Chi.
or chi, yeah, like chi or aisle in a grocery store, something like that. If you're a good German, like me,
Crowd.
ow,
Oh, ow. Crowd.
yeah,
Get out, crowd.
yeah, the AU sound is in kraut. We just this last weekend we had dogs and kraut, so which is one of our favorites. But that's ow, the ow sound. Epsilon iota make the EI sound like you have in height, okay? Not like you have in way, okay? It's a little bit of a different. This is going to take a little bit more of the I sound in it, yes.
And between the alpha iota and epsilon iota,
Is there a difference?
why do they use one time and one the other time? They say make the same sound.
They just do. I can't tell you why. It has to do with fancy word is morphology, how words develop.
Okay.
And words develop.
Okay.
Just because.
They do. It's like in English. I always, because we do this in English all the time. We have words that we've adopted words from one language.
Yeah. Height and ion.
Oh,
Yeah.
height and yeah. Anyway, but English does that. We have words where things have developed at different times, and we're gonna that'll be important because we are gonna have some words eventually that are gonna be, just have to learn some oddballs. The EU that you're gonna get, epsilon U are gonna be like an EU like you'd have in feud, okay? Feud. Omicron iota is gonna be like oi.
In group.
As you have an oil.
Oh.
I never thought my wife would be the class clown. I always thought my wife was the A student in college, she's the one that made the dean's list, not me. You probably aren't surprised I didn't make the dean's list when you're watching me try to teach this class. Believe it or not, I have taught this like 5 or 6 times before. And then Omicron upsilon, again, this is just like we have in English where we have like the words group and soup, things such as that.
Okay.
And then we have, if you can see this here, upsilon iota, as we have in sweet, okay? Or suit. Sweet. Yeah, it's going to kind of have more of a we. And this is a key letter because, or key expression because this is the first letters in the word huios, which is the word sun.
So Tim, that sweet should be on the English have an E behind it, right?
Yes, and it should. And I just realized I had dropped that when I typed.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
I will correct those. Yes, my wife's my editor. Yes, she's the one that catches all my mistakes that I make. Okay. Now, are we okay if we just briefly talk about some of our consonants then?
Yeah, I just have to go.
Okay. So we go what?
Nothing. I'm here all day.
Okay. So as we look at our consonants then, we move to the consonants. Consonants are broken down based on whether whether it's smooth or whether there's a stop. And a smooth would be like just saying moo. There's not really it's just moo. It's just moo like this. Moo. There's not really a stop of the air. It's just a smooth movement of the breath.
You don't go moo, you go
Moo.
But when you're doing the letter sound.
You're just going Yeah, you're not really stopping it. You're not really stopping the air. Thank you for pointing that out. My wife's really good. She's taught phonics with kids at school, and she's always good that we always add vowels after consonants, we pronounce them, and in reality you don't do that.
I lived with a speech therapist student.
Oh, there you go. But we do have stops. So we have 4 that are liquids that are smooth. So we have like in lambda, we have mu, which is mm, Nu, which is n, and ro, which is just, so they're just smooth. There's no stop. But then we have 3 sets of stops, and the 3 sets of stops are based on what you're doing with your tongue or your lips. So the first ones are your labials, how you're using your lips. So we all get this because we do this in English too. In fact, if you study linguistics for English, they'll go over this same stuff on how we produce sounds. And so you have beta, which is b. So there's a stop. B, b, yeah. So b, you have to have that. So you momentarily stop the air and let it come out. B, like that. P, p, pi is p, p. So you have that kind of break in the air. And the same thing with phi, and phi is like a combination of a labial and a dental because you're using both your teeth and your lip and your like that.
Your lip on your teeth.
Yeah, yeah.
You're holding it.
Rough.
And then these actually down the road, especially when we get to third declension nouns, these are important because the third declension nouns are partly divided on the pronunciation, on the letters that are dominant to the stem. Anyway, I hope I'm not scaring you off. It's not that complicated, but there will be things you have to remember eventually. And we'll review this when we get there. Then we have dental stops. So these are ones where you're using your teeth, like t, 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 tau, t, in da, 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 in with the delta, and theta. So there's
Theta.
so, t, t, and da, da, and then okay. So those are all dental stops. And then we have palatals or guttural stops. Guttural stops. So this is where you're going to use your tongue and you're going to be kind of closing the airway in the back of your mouth, the back of your throat. So for kappa, g, g, in the back there, for gamma, and k, for chi. So what?
Rough.
Yeah, it's a little harder. Yeah, it's like you're kind of clearing your throat a little bit with that last one with chi. And then we have 5 sibilants, which basically have S sounds. So we have sigma, zeta, psi, and psi. And they all, if you just are learning those, there you go. You're gonna see that they have an S sound. So I am, with a little bit of this, everybody that's in class here today is going to participate in this next part. And I am going to, you have some of these at the end of the lesson, practice those on your own out of your book. But these are the ones that we have today. And I'm going to write, there will be some capital letters here. What is that capital letter?
Epsilon.
Sigma.
Okay, that's sigma. That's sigma. So it's a capital sigma.
Oh,
Yep.
sigma, right.
Weird.
Sigma, right.
Okay.
Okay, so you can either see this. I wrote it on the board for those that are here. For those of you that are online, it's that first word there under practice and pronounce. So how would we pronounce that?
Hold on. I'm getting there.
Silas.
We're gonna,
Scylla.
what?
Silas.
Okay,
Silas.
yeah, silas would be
Silas.
accurate, but we butcher it and we say
Silas.
Silas, because you can pronounce an iota as a long sound. So this is Paul's traveling companion.
Oh, yeah.
Paul and Silas,
Silas.
its proper name. Okay,
Okay.
okay, Silas. Next one here.
You gonna need more capitals?
Well, this next one's easy because it looks just like ours in English.
Except for that.
I was gonna say that doesn't look like any English word I know.
Okay.
Avocado. That's the R sound.
Is that Andreas? Or
Close.
Okay. How do you pronounce, Joe? How do you pronounce the third letter in that word?
that's the sigma?
No.
Oh, it's
Oh, no. Oh, that's
okay.
Delta, right? So
It's
Andreas.
Andreas, yeah. And that is actually Andrew's name. That's Andrew. Okay.
But kind of close.
Which is, you're gonna, if you do the ones in the book, you're gonna have James' name and it doesn't look like James. Old and New Testament, you never have James. It's always Jacob or Jacob. Jacob. There's no James. James is the way the word ended up coming over into English over a long period of time. Okay, now we're going to have not a proper name, just a noun.
Ethnos?
He's cheating.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Ethnos.
Ethnos.
Ethnos. Okay,
Ethnos.
close.
Okay.
See, that proves I'm not cheating.
There you go. Okay. And we get an English word from this, and I didn't know if anybody would be able to pick it out of ethnos. Ethnic.
Ethnic, right?
It's the word for Gentile. It was used to distinguish nations or Gentiles. So ethnicity comes out of that word. Okay.
What? Yes. These are online, right?
These are all.
These are not out of the book. These are yours.
These are ones that I added to give you some extra work. Okay, we're back down here. We're going to give my wife this one down here. What? Isaac. Yeah.
Isaac.
If you look up Isaac's name in the Bible, there's two
Also true.
two alphas in Greek, yeah, and two A's in the English pronunciation of it. So Itzhak. They're maybe going to name my grandson Isaac. They don't know yet if it's going to be Isaac or Levi. So
Stop it.
Got it.
Levi. Levi.
This is so cool. Abram?
Abram, yeah, that's what it
Abram.
is. We say Abraham because we
Abraham.
kind of add a
We don't say Abraham.
we kind of add a rough we add a rough breathing sound to this first alpha in English. Okay, we already have done this one, but we'll give you an easy one here towards the end. This one's my mom's.
Pam, question on that, on Abram or Abram. Since there's two alphas next to each other, do you extend it or you syllabalize it?
We're going to talk about dividing syllables in the next lesson. We'll look at that. But yeah, it has to do with that the first aleph is kind of pronounced with a little bit of a rough breathing. So it's kind of, rather than just it's there's a little bit of
Abram.
And then in the next lesson, we'll talk about breathing marks. It's the one mark that you'll all will get. I do not push accents. I will tell you can study the accents in here, but I have another textbook on Greek, and that guy the original writer of that textbook going back to the early 1900s, right down to the present time, as they've done 3 editions of that book to completely redo, all of the writers have agreed accents really aren't that important in Greek because, number one, we don't really know if we're even pronouncing this right. We're basing this on the pronunciation by Desiderius Erasmus, who was a Catholic monk that worked on Greek texts back prior to the time of Luther. So this goes back a ways, but that's a long ways removed from the writing of the New Testament. So we call this an Erasmian pronunciation. And there are some, and this is generally accepted what we're doing for pronunciation, but there are some Greek teachers that are very fussy about, no, we got to pronounce it like this. And there are a very few places where an accent makes a difference. So we're not really worried about accents so much, but that's the next lesson.
Oh, that would be.
So did I give you enough time, Mom, to figure this one out?
Logos?
Okay, or logos. We could say this a long O or a short O.
And at the beginning of the lesson today, so it was up there.
Yeah. We in English, we say, oh, but to pronounce it, to represent it out of the Greek, we're going to go with lot. My wife's trying to share something and I keep ignoring it. Sorry.
So Omicron is, like,
Yeah, it's always pronounced, treated short. Omicron.
Pot.
Yeah.
Just think of pot.
Pot. Yeah.
Shot.
Put the two in news together.
The two news together. We'll do that next lesson.
okay.
It's in this lesson.
I know, but we didn't get down to that
Okay,
yet. We didn't get down to that yet.
Today, today.
So,
Today.
and then the last one.
Agape.
Get ready to go.
Oh,
Last one there for Joe.
Agape.
Did you say it?
I said agape.
Agape. Yeah. That's a word. The minute we say it, most people that have been in church go, oh, I know that word. That's love. And it is. This is the noun agape.
okay.
So some proper names that you know, and if you look at that at the end of the lesson down there on the bottom of page 5 in the exercises, there's a series in the textbook. If you do these, this is in, I don't know if they have this in the old book or not, but they got a series of proper names. And once you say them, you can check yourself because they all have a scripture reference behind it. So you can actually look it up and see, oh, that's the name he's using in there. But you should be able to figure it out. Most of those are going to be pretty obvious once you say them. There, you may have to kind of fudge your English a little bit to get, or fudge the Greek one way or another, your pronunciation.
Tim,
Yes.
in that agape there, okay, I have the book open here, this essentials thing. And under their alpha, it looks like a little a. And then you have this one that looks like that, what is it, a sideways deer or whatever you were talking about before? That looks like a fish right here.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, which way is it? Can it be both ways?
Okay. Say again what the problem.
She's
Hey,
saying this one
look,
looks lowercase a, and yours looks more like.
yeah, it looks like a
Oh.
little.
This when you're looking at it in the book, you're just seeing a very stylized font.
So
Is
it actually should be like you've written down there.
Yeah, if you looked at these in their writing, it probably looks a little bit more like a fish or something like that.
Fast, right.
But some of them are a little bit more like this, and they do look like the horns of an animal tipped sideways.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and the uppercase is the horns upside down on the A.
Oh, I never thought about that.